hope you are tired enough to sleep for the following lecture after a good meal or a snack. I would like to continue now with a few theoretical ideas more, and I hope you are patient enough to follow that ideas. And then we have good leads about half an hour, and then we have a good hour to show you the light system in detail and maybe some examples from other movies or from big studio work, for example. Because now we have always small locations. If it's okay for you, yeah, you're ready to see. It is often said that language will soon be replaced by images, that our rich vocabulary is turning into a wealth of images. Well, the thing with the rich or wealth is open to doubt at least, but I consider this fundamentally to be nonsense. Images do something that language cannot, and vice versa. Images go to the brain, whereas language comes from the brain. Language can only function and blossom if it is first thought, and in my opinion the same applies to images. You have first to see before you can depict. Sorry, it sounds very banal, but believe me, it's not. It's worse to call that to remember yourself from such things. In other words, you have to see and understand light, and this can't be done with typing or wiping a finger on a touch screen. Sometimes I think we have too many specialists. And with all their special skills, they construct a lot of very special tools with very special qualities. As I want to speak about light, you can say that even if you find your lamp with the best qualities, this lamp is always built as an isolated item. You will find perfect lamps for very high output, for example, or with especially soft light, or small, big, thin, thick lamps, whatever you want. The problem is that light itself is a very complex and very often capricious entity. And every atmospheric situation consists of several different light qualities. Each light beam influences the next one, and altogether they create endless variations of moods and atmospheres. A very fine spun network, and any slightest change in light causes a multiple reaction. But since every lamp may work on its own, it's not a given. You want to have that?
No.
It works like that too, because it's only here. Since every lamp may work on its own, it's not a given that all these different lamps will work together. You need to control how your lamps fit and match each other. Not an easy task, because in most cases, all those good tools are not built to work as a system. So it seems to be only natural that you could easily find yourself in a kind of a mishmash light soup, and all that with high-tech calculated efficiency. As always, when we want to increase efficiency by going down the route of crassness and oversimplification, sensitivity, the ability to differentiate and articulate falls by the wayside. In our case, it means to lose the comprehension about the richness of light. These words just as a kind of preface to the topic of tools. Today we have a phenomenon that exists to an unprecedented extent, namely the phenomenon the phenomenon, after the wheel, the phenomenon of being seduced and having control over tools that promises everything. If you have a problem, there's a device to fix it. This is not new, but in my opinion, this belief in tools is a mistake and a trap. Because it leads us to talk about the knife and fork and not about the wheel. How often I have witnessed these waves of discussion, and how often I have also walked right into such things. Currently, the discussion is about 2, 4, 8 keys, whatever you want. It's a kind of madness, or that LEDs that can do everything and so on. And if you look backward, there's always some such crazy pipes. And for at least 30 years now, I've been hearing the wonderful saying, "The future is now," which reminds me of the even more wonderful saying of the Bavarian comedian Karl Valentin, who said, "The future isn't quite what it was in the old days." We humans haven't always seems to have had the eternal illusory hope in the tool. With this or that weapon, we will win the war. With new package check regulations, we will get absolute security against terrorists. If I use this or that piece of equipment, I will be rid of my problems, or even perhaps have a better feeling. But what do we really get out of it? On rare occasions, and only if we sieve the incessant flood of innovations with both expertise and common sense, we do actually get advances. But always with side effects, just like with the medical world. And in our industry, an inflationary saturation in the uniform mush of average productions. I find technical advance interesting if it leads not only to a better result, but also if it improves my working conditions. No one would ever dream of saying, "Oh, so-and-so latest novel is fantastic because it was written on the XY laptop. The best grand piano does not play the concert. And the best brush with the finest paints does not paint the picture." But funnily enough, such ideas exist in our industry. Remarkable many film people believe that only the best camera shoots the best images, or the best lamps make the best light, but without asking what is better, or what is the best. The attractiveness of easy answer is certainly understandable, but the possibility of running away from basic questions quickly leads us to succumbing to the promises of no old problem solvers. Seductive. However, nothing relieves us to the task of getting to the roots of the problems. Although when we try to do so, the self-extolling problem solvers almost always stand in the way than they illuminate it. Even when I was young, people argued fanatically in various photo clubs about whether Leica or Zeiss made the better lenses. You will find the same today in internet forums, with the result that you could see sharp or even sharper images of red roses or pretty Siemens stars. No newer, bigger, more expensive or even smaller, cheaper devices can help us. Maybe some could, but first we need an analytical comprehension and quite some obsessive stubbornness, not exactly the easiest route. Very often just not losing sight of the goal is already such a great effort that it leads to exhaustion. Please don't misunderstand me. I really appreciate and respect handicraft. And of course, a good craftsman needs good tools. I even have to confess that it's not too bad to fall in love with them sometimes. I still remember when I had my first home camera, which brought me some work. It was standing the whole night beside my bed. It was not much sleep, just staring at my new camera. It's good. But all I want to do is to put these two discussions in their proper place, bringing them into the correct relation to the importance of perception and content. When you look through the specialist journals of our industry, you see that this topic is almost entirely absent now, or at least has been out of plumb for quite some time. I'm having a bit of allergic reactions here because our film-specific literature has almost nothing to say about content and perception, our actual business objective, about the what and the how and the why, and not always about the with what. I would like to quite consciously focus your attention as much as I can on the fact that people have always, as far as we can establish, been concerned with light, observed it, revered it, or feared it. On the fact, at any rate, that light was already a topic before we started, or better, had to start to measure light for exposure purposes for our glass plates, motions, and image sensors long before all that. That's why it is important to observe light, to understand it as something whole, with the aim of creating an awareness of how it shapes and guides our perception and regard. We must recognize and formulate our own problems, which of course individually can be very different, in order to then search for specific solutions. There's no getting around it. In my career as a cinematographer, tools have never been able to give me the answers. These questions of mine were elucidating the problems, and I formulate them in an exaggerated way. First, why do I always have to use 10 kilowatt so that 1 kilowatt can reach the subject? Second, why do I have to violate my actors, glare, heat, and spatial restriction? Third, why do I have to take so much of my director's time at each stage of development, or every time there is a request for changes in the staging? Fourth, why do my lighting technicians mostly sit around in a grumpy mood? And last but not least, fifth, why I'm never satisfied with the result. And my answers, given in the same order and in an equally exaggerated way, are: first, it was why I always did thankfully, because in order to keep the light's distribution and intensity under control, to be able to design it, I have to use so many light destroyers, like filters, flags, etc. Second, that was the question, why to violate my actors? Because I have to separately light each important position of the actor or various different spatial zones, and can hardly take their state of mind into consideration. And then the set is so full that almost only the frame and the camera remains full. Third, why I have to steal my director's time? Because it takes simply so much time to affect the whole setup and change of setting. Fourth, the grumpy mood electrician. Because the technicians primarily drag heavy equipment from one place to another, where then they wait for the next setup. Not for nothing, it's a well-known saying of lighting technicians, I have a supporting role in the film.